Hi guys, hope you all are doing great. Welcome to another tutorial, and today I am going to be showing you how to cut and sew a pencil skirt. Don't forget to hit the subscription button, turn on the notification bell to get notified on new videos. Let's get right into the tutorial. I will start with taking a marginal line right here, and from this line I will take my measurements. And I'm going to first of all take the length I want for my skirt, and I am going to be using waist to ankle length. You can do waist to knee or whatever length you want. Now, to take this length, you have to minus whatever length of waistband you are going to be using. If your waistband is 2 inches, you're going to minus it from the length. If your waistband is 1 inch, you're going to minus it from the length. And once I have done that, I am placing the length I want for my skirts. And do not forget to add your hemming allowance. My hemming allowance is going to be the remaining space after this line. Now the next measurement we're going to take is our waist to knee line. My waist to knee is 23 inches. Now because my waistband is 1 inch, I am going to be using 22 inches. Basically, just minus whatever length of waistband you are using from the waist to knee. Same thing we did for the waist to length. Now, the next measurement we're going to take is our waist to hip. My waist to hip is 10 inches. I will be minusing 1 inch for waistband, and I am going to be using 9 inches for my waist to hip, as you can see. Now we're going to be dividing the body circumference by 4 and adding sewing allowances. Now starting with the waist, divide your waist circumference by 4, place it, add 1 inch for that, and 1.5 inches or 1 inch for sewing allowance. On the hip line, place your hip circumference divided by 4, add your sewing allowance. To get your knee circumference, you're going to place your hip measurement on your knee circumference, and if you want it to be really penciled or tapered, you're going to minus 2 inches or 1 inch depending on how tapered you want your skirt to be. My hip circumference is 11.5, and I will be minusing 1.5. As you can see, I am using 10 inches as my knee circumference. Now go on and add your same allowance. To get your ankle length, you're going to take your knee circumference and minus 1 inch or 1.5 inches, depending on how tapered you want your skirt to be. Now I am going to be minusing 1.5 inches. Remember, my knee circumference is 10 inches, and I am going to be using 8.5 inches as my ankle circumference, and do not forget to add your seam allowance. On my waistline, I will take my bust span measurements divided by 2, and I'll do the same on my hip line. Now I would connect the lines. Now I would take 1/2 inch on both sides of my waist, and I would go upwards by 2 inches from my hip line. And I am going to go on and connect my dart lines. Bust span measurement is also called the nipple to nipple measurements. If you do not know how to take these measurements, check out my how to take measurements video so you can be a guru on how to take your body measurements. Now, as you can see, all I am doing is just connecting my lines. And what we're going to do now is we're going to create a little bit of shaping on the waist part. Now on the waistline, you're going to go downwards by 1 inch. And on this end, you're going to go upwards by 1/2 inch. And now we're going to connect the 1/2 inch to the 1 inch. And we are done with the front pattern. Now, one thing you need to know is with this kind of pattern, the center front is on fold. This center front, your fabric is going to be on fold to cut this out. And this is basically how to draft your pencil skirt pattern. And we are just going to go on and cut this pattern out. Notice how I didn't cut the top of the skirt out because we're going to be using this same pattern to retrace and cut out for the back. This pattern right here is going to be my back pattern, and I have marked my zip allowance, 1 inch for my zip allowance from top to bottom. Now place the center front of your front pattern on that zip line. Once you're sure everything is in place, retrace the ankle length, retrace your knee line, retrace your hip line, and also your waist line. Okay, now take out this pattern and we're going to connect all the lines. Now place your front pattern on your back pattern again, and now we're going to retrace the pattern, the front pattern on the back pattern. And now that the back has no business with the front anymore, you can just go on and cut out the curve of the front. Your front pattern should look like this. It should have this little curve at the front, okay? Now back to the back pattern. On this side of your skirt, go upwards by ½ inch. And you're going to connect that to the waist line, okay? And your back pattern should have a little bit of curve also, like this. Now we're going to add our darts. Place your bust span just like you did while drafting the front. Your bust span divided by 2 on your waistline and also on your hip line. Connect your lines. Mark ½ inch on both sides of the line on your waist and go upwards by 1 inch from your hip line, and now connect your dart lines. And we are done with the back. While cutting the back, make sure you cut 2 of this pattern, and we're just going to cut this pattern out. And if you have gotten this far, congratulations to you. To cut and sew a pencil skirt is going to be a piece of cake as you keep watching. Now, as you can see, I have cut my front pattern of my fabric, and I left ½ inch at the top right here for joining to my waistband. Now, using my tracing wheel, I am going to trace my darts on my fabric like this. Remember, I told you that the center front of your fabric must be folded to use this pattern. As you can see, the center front of my fabric is folded. Once you fold your center front, you would have one piece for the front, okay? Now for the back, I also left ½ inch at the top right here for joining to my waistband. And this excess fabric you see right here is 1 inch extension from my knee line all the way to my ankle line. 1 inch. You can use 1½ inch if you want, but I used 1 inch all the way to my knee length for the vents. Now, using my tracing wheel, I am going to trace out my darts just like I did for the back. And you can also use your tracing wheel to trace out the hemming allowance of your skirts and also the zip. And remember, I told you the back has to be in 2. You have to cut 2 for the back because of the zip allowance. Now we're going to match up the good sides of the backs together. And as you can see, I have marked out my zip allowance. And you're going to go downwards from your waist by 8 inches. Now from those 8 inches, you're going to stitch all the way to this point, about same place your vent extension starts. Now I have gone and stitched my darts, as you can see, and I have also made that stitch I marked on my fabric. As you can see, I have this opening for the vent. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to double fold the vent to this point. Now we're going to start double folding like this, and we're going to start pinning. we're going to double fold all the way to the bottom and flip it to the other side and also do the same thing. Now bear in mind that if you are using a lining, the process to using a lining is quite different from this. We are not going to be using a lining for this one, so that is why we are making a double fold. Now once you're done pinning, you're going to stitch and also stitch. Now I am done making my stitch, and what you can do is you can go on your sewing machine and make a stitch like this, either straight or slanted, just so you can hold this down, or you can as well iron this down. Now we're going to move straight up to the zipper. As you can see, I have marked my zipper allowance on my fabric. Now we're going to start by folding that allowance in like this, and we're going to place it on the zip like this, and we're going to start pinning. Now once you're done pinning this part, now take this other part and also fold the same allowance in and overlap the zip by at least ½ inch or 0.3 inch and start pinning, as you can see me do. At this point, make sure you have no folds or rumples, and go on your sewing machine and stitch from your waist all the way down to those points and take it to the other side and stitch all the way back up. And let's go on and do this together. All you have to do is stitch from your waist down to where your zip ends. And once you get to where your zip ends, leave your needle in your fabric, lift the foot, turn the fabric to the part you want it to go, and keep your footer back down and continue stitching. And this is basically what I am doing. Very easy and simple. And now we're going to go on and iron this whole fabric together so as to remove unnecessary folds, and so everything will lay flatter. Next thing you're going to do now is place the good sides of the front skirt to the good sides of the back skirts together, and we're going to go on and mark and stitch our side seams on each sides. Join the side seams of the front and the back and stitch. Now as you can see, we are done. I am done making the stitch, and what I am going to do now is we're going to stitch the hemming allowance. And as you can see, I have marked my bottom hemming allowance, and I'm going to basically just double fold this and pin. And once I am done pinning, I am going to go on and stitch. And for the final part, we're going to move to the waistband of the skirt. Now to make the waistband, fold your fabric in half and take this marginal line like I am doing. And once you've done this, take the waist circumference divided by 2, and mine is 16 inches. Now what you're going to do is from the folded edge of your fabric on that marginal line, go upwards by 1 inch like I have done. And whatever length of waistband you are using, you're going to double it because it's going to be unfold like this. Okay, now in total I am going to use 5 inches for that waistband, and I'm going to adjust it much later. Now this same 5 inches mark I took here, I'm going to take it on this place, and I am just going to connect my curves like this using my curve ruler. And remember to add 2 inches for allowance. Okay, now once you're done, cut this out. And once you open this up, you should have this. Now at this point, you can go on and iron your interfacing on your waistband. Now once you're done doing this, fold your waistband in half and start finding the midpoint. And once you're done finding the midpoint, mark it, and we're going to slice this waistband in half. Now place the good sides of the waistbands together like this, and using your iron, you're going to place this curve part on fold by 1/2 inch and iron it, and also do the same on the other side of the waistband. Now at this point, start taking the length of the waistband you want to use like this, and the length of the waistband I am using, like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, is 1 inch, and that is what I am marking on my waistband. Now I am going to follow this line and make my stitches, and I am going to cut off the excess. Now what I am doing now is I am cutting off the excess because I am done making my stitches, and I am basically just making notches very close to the stitch. Now at this point, we're going to flip this to the good side, and we're going to iron and flip as we go. And once we're done, we're going to start stitching the waistband to the skirt. Place 1/2 inch in like this and place it to the waist of the skirt like this and start pinning. And we're going to pin this all the way to the other end of the zip. Now once you're done pinning, basically just follow that 1/2 inch mark that you placed on fold and ironed and stitch it all the way to this end. Now once you're done stitching, make this fold in like this and fold it over like this, and we're going to start folding the rough edges of the band inside and pinning till we get to the other end. And now at this point, you're just going to fold the good side of this part, this overlapping part together, fold it together and stitch. Now as you can see, I am done making my stitches and I have cut off the excess, and now I'll flip this back to the good side. Now at this point, you need to make sure that the overlapping part of your waistband is at the overlapping part of your zipper. As you can see, make sure that it is at the overlapping part of the zip. Okay, so now we're going to go on our sewing machine and we're going to stitch our waistband to the skirts like this, from this part all the way down, and stitch all the way to the end of the band. And at this point, you can go on and overlock all the rough edges, and also don't forget to add your hook and eye to the skirt. And we are done with this tutorial, guys. Give this video a thumbs up. Bye.